This is the Henry's Child Podcast. Am I crazy? Or am I just raving?
In our last podcast, which was an interview with Scott Watkins of After the Rain, I mentioned that we had put up the microphones early and we're actually waiting for him, and Rich and I just kind of got to talking for a little bit over an hour. And that's what I'm about ready to share with you today. So a couple things about it. First off, we actually started the show early and the celebration early. And what I mean by that is by the time that we had got in front of the mics, there had been some alcohol that had been passed around. Really, it was kind of two things. It was kind of a little bit pre-funk before the show, but additionally, it was also Rich Clinton's birthday weekend. So we took that as an opportunity to pre-celebrate. Let's put it that way. And with that, at the same time, I should also mention that the conversation ends very abruptly because Scott and Rebecca showed up and we just kind of instantly went into that mode. So this is new. This is something different we don't typically do on the Am I Crazy or Am I Just Raving podcast, but this is really just Rich and I talking. Before we get into it, though, I actually have just two sort of housekeeping items. First off, I wanted to officially make the announcement that we're going to be having a video premiere party that is going to be at the Broadway Metro in Eugene, and it's going to be on September 28th. As far as the actual details of when to show up, those will be coming out very soon, and you should be seeing some social updates as well for that too. That video premiere is going to be for the song The Stars in Your Eyes. The second housekeeping item is we have a show coming up on Friday, October 25th at Sessions Music Hall with Toxic Zombie. And so that as well, we'll be sending out some information in regards to that with all those details. It will be an all-ages show, and I'm sure that there's going to be advanced tickets, so hopefully you can get those as they come out. Please enjoy this experiment with Rich and I sitting down to talk before the Grants Pass show.
It wasn't like a YouTube video or something. It was
so
just
what? The
ASMR thing.
ASMR thing?
Yeah. I'm like, they called it something else, though. Initially.
Auditory, sensory...
Meridian...
Response. Versus Frisian.
Frisian. How is that spelled?
Just
Frisian.
Frisian, like fission with an R. Frisson.
Okay. So what's the difference? Oh, that one has more. It's visual and auditory.
Yeah. When you can see your music.
A lot of people are into it. There's become a whole, like...
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like people are making entire YouTube careers off of ASMR.
I don't know how anybody makes YouTube. And now the new thing is like... A singer reacts to George W. Bush's speeches, or they have all these weird ones now. They like to do Queensryche. A lot of these they
like to do Queensryche.
Yeah, professional vocalists react to Queensryche's "Lady Wore Black," and it'll be on their headphones, and they'll go, and they'll stop and they'll go, the legato. Wow, and now it's like it all started off with just like weirdly enough, black dudes listening to metal.
Well, that might have been the first one that you're exposed to.
Well, yeah, those were the original reaction
videos. Yeah.
But then there was this like black dudes listening to metal reaction videos, and there's quite a few of them, the copycatter ones.
Dude, those are pretty funny.
Yeah, but someone's like reacts to like Led Zeppelin, When the Levee Breaks. It's like you can't. I don't care who you are. How can you have never heard that song?
I don't know, man. Some people are pretty sheltered.
I don't see how anybody could have not heard that song. Number one, it's an old song. It's been around for. How can you miss it? Like these people are young though.
Because it's not in a Chevy commercial yet.
No, that's Bob Seger. What was the other one?
Oh yeah, that's right.
The Bob Seger one was the big one.
Oh, like a rock. Right. That's like a Chevy truck one.
Yeah.
Man, see, look, there's genius marketing working right there.
Yep.
That's the first one that popped in my head.
Is that your computer fan?
That is, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was some
ASMR.
Nope,
that's it. It is a little ASMR. Do you feel tingly on your solar plexus?
Yeah.
It's a little out of... Could be that or the Lagavulin. The pre-birthday Lagavulin.
Tastes pretty good.
As we're waiting for Scott Watkins of
Tastes pretty campy.
After the Rain.
Tastes peaty. How many things you get in life that taste peaty?
Doug Kramer got us some tea.
Yeah, some from China. I forgot.
Do you remember what the context of it was? Was it like a health thing with him? Or?
No, he just liked tea. Weirdly enough, it was one of those odd things. He just liked tea.
Him and Andy Macon
he got this
liked
tea someplace. Yeah, but he's British. You have to like tea.
You have to like tea.
But he gave me some of it. It was similar to how smoky and woody this is. That tea tastes like campfire. It was weird. It had that total smoke. It was super smoked. Spoke to Mike about it, Mike Sears, because they're kind of tea connoisseurs too, since his wife is Taiwanese and they have to be, like Britain. You have to be. Am I too quiet?
Taiwanese, yes. Yeah.
So I asked him about he's all, well, they have smoked teas and different types. Well, it was something. It wasn't. Everybody keeps trying to tell me it was oolong, and no, it was not oolong. Oolong's pretty generic.
We were on our trip down here. The fact that you said that everybody said that it was oolong, it has to fit into their model of reality. So like all they have is a point of reference is, there couldn't be a peaty or smoky tea. It's got to be oolong. No, I'm correct. Just listen to me. And a lot of times, if you just sort of nod this is like the Henry's Child, like self-help. Like if you just nod your head and you pretend and just let them think that they're right, 9 times out of 10 they'll just leave you alone.
Sure. Yeah.
They'll be like, oh yeah, that's cool.
You don't even have to you don't have to say
it's
a word.
Totally not even it.
Nod and smile.
Oolong.
It's along the same lines of comparing music. Somebody will go, well, you guys sound like this and this and that. And then we've gotten some strange ones over the years.
It's their only point of reference.
They're just drawing from whatever pool they have, their reference pool.
If all they listen to is Static X, they're like, dude, you sound
Alabama,
just like Static X.
You sound like a cross between...
And Alabama.
You sound like a cross between Static X and Alabama.
That kind of is what Grants Pass feels like, a little bit. A cross between two polar different things. So we're going down these main strips, and it's kind of like all this new stuff that kind of looks like California, like Northern California, whatever. And then we go... Well, first off, it was funny because the GPS, we just typed in liquor stores, and it came up plural. So there's multiple stores named the liquor stores, which I thought was funny, but in a kind of a dad humor kind of way. And so we go there, and then we turn down some roads, and they're like, houses from like the 70s or whatever, kind of a thing. It's a very diverse thing they got going down here. And Dutch Brothers is from here. Mm-hmm.
And Macaulay Culkin's dad.
Kit.
Yeah, Kit Culkin.
Kit Culkin.
He's from here.
Is from here. Mm-hmm. From Grass
Someone's got to be from here.
It's true. Travis Ziering is from here.
Travis is from here.
Do you think that he was born here? Do you think his parents humped here and then just stayed here and then had him here?
I don't know. That's a good question. We'll have to ask him. We should do a podcast with Travis Ziering and Kenny Nestor.
I'll let you do that one.
Sure.
I figure we could probably do them separately too and get twice as much.
Actually, we should do them separately and then put them together. Not people, but
like a double
the
episode.
We'll ask them the same questions and it'll be like
that's sneaky, and then not
like
tell
a match
them.
Game type thing.
Like America's Funniest Home Videos.
Then it would be funny.
When like the dad's mowing the lawn and then he falls in the pool or something.
The pit.
Yeah, the pit of snakes.
Yeah,
that the little kid has.
The blood-filled pit. Yeah.
Death pit. Like it's like deathbed. The bed that eats people. I will never forget when I stole that from the internet. I mean, I borrowed it from the internet, and they had this sort of like, there was a scene where they had a chicken leg, and the illustration was to be that the bed was from hell, and then it was filled with acid. And so what they did is they cut a scene on the bed where there's some scantily clad chick, laying there or whatever, and the bed is about ready to consume this person. But to make the point, they pulled the camera away, and it looked like it was basically like a KFC chicken leg that they had dipped in some like yellow oil, and then it just sort of like went, like all the skin kind of came off of it, and that was the illustration of what deathbed really was. Because they never, I feel like they don't actually,
or it was a chicken leg.
Well, it was a chicken leg that became ooze.
So deathbed was that chicken leg that got oozed.
Well,
And it
yeah,
became a
that was
possessed
the
bed.
example. That was the example.
Okay.
I'm sure that there's probably like a skull floating around in there somewhere too.
I think there should be a whole program finding anybody that was involved with something as absolutely
Obscure
awful
as deathbed?
and ask them, how, where did this come from?
We
in
got-
your mind. Like, what's that one that Brian told us, that movie with that tire? The tire that goes around and kills people. Now, somebody pitched that. Same thing with Deathbed. Somebody pitched that.
Yeah.
Like Patton Oswalt talked about Deathbed. Somebody pitched it and someone said, that's genius. Let's make a movie about that. But somebody did that tire, too.
Oh, that's genius. Kenny, let's make a
And
movie
the tire's
about
name
it.
was like Robert or something. It had a name. I wish Brian was here. He would already been doing scenes for the movie.
We wouldn't, yeah, he knows, already has dialogue for it. Robert the
Oh,
Tire.
our dancers get here in
It's
time.
like a, what do you call it? Sharknado.
Yeah.
We were watching TV at the beach this week, and my mother-in-law's like, I love shark movies. And I mean, you mean like documentaries and stuff? She's like, no, scary movies about sharks. And I go like, have
Like
you seen
Jaws?
like Jaws? And then I'm like, have you seen Sharknado? And she goes, oh, probably. And I'm kind of like thinking to myself, like, okay, so you don't probably see Sharknado.
Yeah, that's something
Which again, that got pitched. So it's a combination of a tornado
that
and
picks
a
up
shark.
sharks. Yeah.
So it's like you're totally screwed. It's like the Midwest meets SeaWorld, right? Like Oklahoma meets SeaWorld.
Right.
Like MAGA meets San Diego
I'm sure it has. They probably partied.
when Donald Trump came to San Diego. I promised we wouldn't talk political on this.
We're not.
So
You
we're
didn't
not.
say anything political.
Just political.
Is Donald Trump political?
I think so.
He's a reality star show.
He's a polarizing figure.
Which he still is. A reality TV
Yeah,
star.
he's a TV show.
He's still a TV show.
TV personality.
Absolutely.
I wonder if people come to the White House now and go like, "Hey, could you say you're fired?" Like that's like the total like
From the
that's like a total
from,
like
from the
thing.
Oval Office. You're fired.
I wonder if I bet you for a certain amount of money you could probably get Donald Trump to turn around. I just see him in the chair like you always see with the president, like he turns around or whatever. Kevin Spacey, when
Right.
he's not when he was actually president. You know,
We remember.
well before Claire.
Right.
And he just turns around, you know, and he's like, "You're fired." And then it's all like the other voice comes on. It's all Tommy T. You're fired, Tommy T. And then Megan's all like, "I paid $5,000 for this, but it came with a special plaque and some steaks."
But we call it a donation.
Yeah, that's right. You can donate to Henry's Child at P.O. Box 371. So we are in our hotel room, Best Western, room number 231, down in Grants Pass, Oregon.
A stone's throw than Winco.
There, you can see the Winco from the outside of our hotel room. You can also see the Elmer's and the Applebee's, which we get 10% off on if we show them our key card.
They got good pancakes.
So I've been told.
Have you never ate at Elmer's?
Oh, I've ate at Elmer's, but I don't think I would ever waste that on pancakes.
They're known for
That'd
pancakes.
be like an
Come
omelet,
on.
dude.
Where else do you get pancakes?
You know, here's the secret to pancakes. I'm a dad, so Jordan never finishes his stuff. So I guarantee you, I'm gonna like taste the pancakes.
Get the German pancake. It's weird.
Does it speak German?
Well, it's thin. All European pancakes
Like
are
a crepe?
Yeah, it's very crepe-like, a little thicker, and it's big. And weirdly enough, it has powdered sugar on it and lemon. They give you a lemon to put lemon juice on it.
I feel like I've seen that before.
It's good. It's different. Even though I like kind of your traditional American flapjacks.
Anyway, we're about ready to do a podcast with Scott Watkins.
Wad?
From Watkins. We're about ready to do a podcast with Scott Watkins. He was from Thresher
Before that.
and 2 Minutes Hate.
And after that.
And after that?
After Thresher.
Oh, after Thresher would have been TV 616. And then after
He's
that.
had various incarnations. I remember Iceland was one of the names of the bands he had.
Dude,
later on.
Iceland was really good.
Yeah.
But then again, like Scott hasn't been in a lot of clunkers. So that tells me that
No, it tells
he's
you.
a pretty consistent dude. But how many times do you honestly think that we've played with Thresher? Like as Henry's Child back in before this incarnation?
I'm going to say 30.
30? I would say triple that.
You think so?
Easily. Easily. We should go back to your spreadsheet and see.
We should.
Although we didn't always write down the bands that we played with.
No, I did.
But there was not all of them.
Really?
I'm pretty sure. I can't believe we don't have that as a Google Doc somewhere.
We're lucky we have it at all.
Everything should be
because that was not
shared.
Computerized at one point in time. It was just written, and then I transcribed it and then put it in the computer.
What was before Windows? What was before Office 98? I should look it up.
Office 3.1. Office 95. What it became before Office 98.
No, they didn't do Opera. No,
they just had Office.
No, Suite. The Office Suite was in between them.
I think I used something called Doc.
You're just being silly now. When you used to play Doom on your computer too.
Doom and Duke Nukem.
I was so jealous of that Doom that when we went into your bedroom and you saw it, and I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's bedroom used to be the garage, like Greg Brady.
Mm-hmm.
But Greg had the attic, didn't he?
I had the garage.
Dude, that would suck though. The garage is way better because if you had the attic, there's no insulation up there, so it'd be like super hot in the summer. And then how are you going to get chicks up there too? Like, what was he thinking? But yeah, everybody fought over it. God, it's so weird. It's like, I want to be in the place that's going to be burning hot in the summer and freezing cold in the winter.
They lived in California, though.
But yeah, I was going to say, where did they live in Southern California?
Yes.
Was that their shtick? So it was like one season all year. I feel like Grants Pass is one season all year too.
I think it's pretty close to it. I think you get a little snow here.
We can ask Scott.
Yeah, we could ask
Scott Watkins.
When Scott gets here, we'll ask him.
So
Scott,
Thresher,
what's the deal with Grants Pass? I do see a giant caveman when you come into town that says it's the climate. So I guess they're pretty happy about their weather. But it could be Oregonians happy about their weather. Californians are never happy about anybody else's weather.
Are Californians happy about anything anymore?
I don't know. It's pretty flipping crowded now, I'll tell you that much. They may be happy about their 7th largest economy in the world, but
California is literally its own country.
Mm-hmm. They're our ally, too. We should be happy with that.
yeah. For the Western.
Right.
You guys can keep the state of Jefferson in the middle.
And the Central Valley, we can just lop that off. And,
yeah.
But the rest of it, yeah. I mean, as far as kind of ideals, California, the whole Pacific coast. Everything goes south at some point in time. You could probably pretty easily have a country that goes from the Canadian border to the Mexican border.
Wasn't that going to be called Cascadia?
I've heard it called Cascadia. I don't think goes all the way to California. Cascadia is British Columbia all the way down into not all the way southern Oregon. I think about a little south of the Willamette Valley. Pacifica. That's what I've heard.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. Pacifica would be the chunk of Washington, Oregon, and California.
Yeah, it's just basically the Pacific coast.
Right.
Tom, you got neighbors.
Imagine that.
Are we going to have to take this to the bathroom?
What?
The whole podcast? Put Scott in the tub?
I don't know if he would fit in the tub.
Well, he's a lanky fellow.
He's a lanky fellow for sure. This is a really small room. You know what this room reminds me of? This room reminds me of that HBO show. Or that Showtime show. What was that Showtime show called?
Weeds?
No.
Weeds 2, The Wrath of Weeds? Didn't they tell you in some brochure or something that these were queen size beds?
Yeah.
They're not queen size beds.
I didn't see a brochure. Room 104. Have you seen Room 104 before?
No, I've seen Weeds.
It's really good. So it's not like Weeds at all. It's like a Twilight Zone. So like every episode's different, but it's all done in the same hotel room.
Huh.
And it's by the same guys that did
Black Mirror?
No, close. Stranger Things.
Oh, okay.
Is that the Duplass brothers?
The Duplass brothers, yeah.
Duplass?
Mm-hmm. Jake and Jorge.
It did remind me of when Jarrett did make a correction on one of the podcasts that we did, which was I can't remember what it was. I think it was you. I feel like it might have been you and Sebastian Phoenix from Otherus. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so you were the host on the podcast. So I did kind of a bunch in between there, but you were the host, and we were talking together about the guy that fell asleep. We said it was Rumpelstiltskin.
No, it's Rip Van Winkle.
And it's actually Rip Van Winkle. Yeah. And he totally corrected me on it. So I need to make sure that I say it. Right, so it's actually room 104, which is good. If you need them, I have both of them, both seasons. They're really good.
Can you give them to me on a flash drive?
I can. I can send them to you over the cloud, too.
I'm afraid of the cloud. Not exactly sure.
Why are you afraid
it's
of
amorphous.
the cloud?
It doesn't exist.
You know, it's funny. I was told you this on the way down. Jordan is my 9-year-old son, and we watched The Matrix the other night because it had John Wick in it, and he wants anything to do with John Wick. And then I was like, why do you like John Wick so much? And then I found out they made John Wick a character in Fortnite.
Oh.
So all of a sudden, everything kind of makes sense, right? So we're like,
how do you even get this reference? Where does it come from?
I know. I was like, that's really strange. Just like him saying Rambo or something, right? You know? And so anyway, so we're like, okay, well, it's got, John Wick when he's really young kind of a thing. And like everything still holds up with the exception of they need what to get out of it. They need a hard line. Right, so it's like a phone, like a telephone, or like a plugged-in landline.
Right, yeah.
And it's funny because we're kind of the opposite of that now. So everything sort of lives in this nebulous, like the cloud, which we know at some very philosophical and metaphorical level has to be plugged in somewhere.
Sure.
In other words, so Google and Amazon, they have so many servers that if a server dies, they literally pay some dude to go pull the plug out of the top and put it in the bottom one, and that's how they fix it. It's just this constant. I don't know if they pay somebody to do it. I mean, who knows?
So there's this giant hive somewhere.
Yeah.
That when in all these movies where we've seen clones being grown in these hives, where they're just kind of sitting there in an embryonic state, there's just servers.
Both of them are in Oregon.
One's out by Hermiston somewhere,
Eastern
right?
Oregon.
Yeah.
Hermiston is one of them. I can't remember which one. If it's either Google or Amazon, but
the same thing.
It must be. It is kind of
different owner, same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what Google's motto is?
Fuck Jeff Bezos.
Whoa! Hey, PG-13. Do you know what? That would be a good one, though. That would be very.
That's their tattoo. They all have to get.
Yeah,
right?
that's their skull and crossbones.
Or just fuck that guy.
What was it? That skull and crossbones.
Yeah.
Right. Like you have to get this one, but with the Jeff Bezos, there has to be a middle finger as well as maybe his picture back when he had hair.
Right.
Back when I sold books online in 1998. Now I sell everything, and I own Whole
own
Foods and you, by the way. No, so Google's motto is "Do no harm."
Okay.
It's funny to chuckle at now. Do no harm.
So you can still get the anarchist cookbook, whatever it was called. You could probably find that on Google somewhere.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. So they're not specifically doing harm. If you do harm,
no.
They're not culpable.
No, this is a this is a skateboard death wobble conversation for sure. It's funny because a long time ago, I feel like there was your mom got some sort of reader, like a Kindle or a Nook or one of those or whatever. And I was telling you about where to find books, and there was this open source project called LibGen.
Yeah.
That you could just get anything. I mean, if you literally typed in Louis L'Amour, like 450 titles popped up that were just kind of like available. And so, in true kind of do no harm fashion, there is no LibGen anymore. Like there's just so much kind of a raft of whatever, people kind of shutting them down or whatever. But there's the IO and the Russian version that seems to be kept up just in a general sense of I'll go type in a book that came out 2 weeks ago and it's there. So the answer to your anarchist cookbook question, so the reality is you could probably read it on Google Images.
Right.
Like it probably shows up in Google Images.
Well, everything's there. I mean, we hear this all the time where people say, watch what you put online because it lives forever. Well, yeah. I mean,
it's totally true.
Sure. Kind of think of it like we all live under a dome. And if it's still going to be floating around under that dome somewhere, wherever it goes, But we don't, it's odd. I personally, my thought on all that is just, we haven't caught up to it. I mean, things have hit us like a huge wave and people still don't know how to process exactly what's going on. Even the whole cloud thing. Dude, they were talking about, what the iPhone came out in 2007?
Right. No, it's 12 years old. Yeah, isn't that nuts?
Yeah, that
that nuts?
blows my mind, you know? Even cell phones. Remember when we went on tour and Wes was with us, and we all had very early versions of modern cell phones. We're not going to go to those bricks that people had.
But there were varying degrees. So back then, there were so many different, like you could, like I remember, for example, one of them you could buy a card, like a track phone, which I think is actually still around. You can still use a track phone. You would charge it with a card, and then. But Wes has a pretty good story about that one.
Yeah, because I remember you had a phone. I don't know if I had one yet, but Wes had a phone, and we were on tour, and we went down to L.A. This was with Andy. This was probably the NAMM show.
97.
Yes, this is
late 97.
Fair. He was one of the first guys to have one, and he racked up a just insane bill calling his girlfriend while we were. I mean, it was in the hundreds and upon hundreds of dollars. It's like $500, something crazy like that.
I remember him being in the back of the van, and I thought he was talking to himself.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so Wes Augustine, we love you so much. You're our dear brother. But, man, you smoked a lot of weed like 30 years ago, man. So it wouldn't have been that weird if he was like, talking to himself or whatever.
Right.
But then you look and he's like, has it kind of on a pillow.
Yeah.
Almost like a girl sleepover or something.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm
what
not
are you
there.
doing?
What are you doing?
What are you wearing?
I'm here.
What are you wearing? But no, it was just. But that is 22 years ago.
Oh, that we went to NAMM? Oh, yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
So my point is the leaps in technology that we've made in 22 years to the point where you cannot hardly see anybody wandering around without a cell phone in their back pocket. A smartphone now, I mean, is just.
But it's become necessary. I mean,
well, because all of society and all of technology has pushed that to that side to the point where it's hard to even live without it because when the technology took hold. But the crazy thing is, I mean, there's nothing to compare that to. I know I've had this discussion with Andy. He's like, well, when the telephone came in, but you know what? There were people that didn't have telephones like 30, 40 years after the telephone was invented because they didn't think they needed one. They really didn't. It was more of a convenience than a necessity. Nobody needed one. I mean, we grew up when we had rotary telephones. That's all we knew. Then touch tone telephones came in, and it was like, ooh, it's novel, it's faster. But you didn't need it.
The touch tone was a big deal. That was loud.
Yeah.
The touch tone was a big deal, and then I think it was one of those times where. It's kind of at where I'm at now. So probably like when my parents were in their like mid 40s or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember that my grandparents got their first cordless phone from Sears, and it like blew our minds. They're like, you can walk in the backyard and be on the phone.
See, the thing is, I hope something happens for, especially like your children with Emma and Jordan. I hope there's a technological leap in their lifetime that just completely blows them away. That, like when we got a VCR. And I just blew my mind that I could record TV.
That was a big one.
It was above and beyond anything I could even imagine. It's like, you mean you can just set a timer and it'll what?
It's going to be holograms.
Something.
I'm absolutely serious. I'm going to go on record now. I've talked about this.
You don't think it's going to be CRISPR and they can just bring Grandpa back?
That's going to exist for sure. I don't think it's going to be holograms. I do think holograms are going to be the next thing.
Yeah.
The next thing on an iPad, and it's going to be kind of a 3D thing. Already with Oculus, you're getting into virtual reality.
Yeah.
And then the whole notion about sex robots, where like if we just give every boy who's 18 years old a sex robot, there's not going to be any more violence anymore.
What was that movie? Brainstorm, wasn't it?
That's really old.
Where they could record your feelings and your thoughts and everything, and it was. They should update that movie.
What's really funny? Should. All of those, even Matrix.
That's Natalie Wood's last movie. I remember that.
Really?
Yeah, before she fell off a boat and drowned. I'm making air quotes. Very
Hello,
90s
Robert
of me.
Wagner. No, so anyway, so it's funny that you say that because on brain scanners,
Brainstorm,
and then on the Matrix that we watched the other day, and then on some other movie, I can't remember what it was, but it was where they could record their dreams with like Dreamscape or something like that. They were all in mini discs. And that was supposed to be the big kind of like the next iteration of, remember that? Like that's so funny.
But the thing about Brainstorm, a lot of those things they tapped into a lot of basic human, I don't know what you call it. It's just kind of basic human impulses. There's that one guy, remember, he was dying because he had somebody had recorded themselves having sex. So he kept playing that, remember? And they found him in his room, and he just kept playing that over and over again. And he was dying. He was like having a heart attack because of it. And of course, the big premise of the movie was the fact that one of the founders of the professors that was on, Louise Fletcher, I remember the actress, she died while it was
shooting?
While it was being recorded, her thoughts. So then they...
Oh, yeah.
They were... And you could see it going into the afterlife and all this other stuff, but it was killing people. So they're trying to figure out how to basically decode it.
That's impossible to do now. But back then, before we really had, like, before computer viruses came into the nomenclature of what it was even like we were even watching. I let Jordan watch Wreck-It Ralph. Or not Wreck-It Ralph. The Ralph does
breaks the internet.
Breaks the internet.
I'm watching that.
And they put the virus in there. I'm all like, that's so funny because like I talk about it like it first scans for vulnerabilities and it's all 30% vulnerable. Like
right.
I'm gonna take that one. Boom, there it is.
Right.
Boom, whop, there it is.
I'm telling you though, there is something, and I'm sure they're your what do they call them now? They're not survivalists. What do they call themselves? Preppers. So your preppers, people like that, you know, the people that live off the grid, they're still an analog world that exists underground.
They have to be.
Yeah.
They
and
have
you know
to
the
be.
government does that too.
So, dude, absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Go back and check out the Unabomber's manifesto.
Yeah.
Dude,
Probably find it on Google.
He was from Berkeley. You can find it. And here's the ironic thing in sort of an Alanis Morissette kind of irony way, is that you can find the Unabomber's manifesto on Google. So his whole deal is he was a Berkeley professor.
Yeah.
And his whole shtick was technology is going to ruin us. It's going to get into our homes. It's going to be in our lives. And here's the best part. We're going to invite it in for free and, in fact, pay money.
Like a vampire.
Kind of like a vampire. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Got to invite it in.
So we should do an EP based on the Unabomber's manifesto. So I believe. So I haven't actually read it. I mean, I probably heard about it on a podcast or something like that.
Ted Kaczynski.
Was it Ted Kaczynski? Was he? Yeah. So anyway, so he was like trying to shut down these big, and it's funny to think about those big corporations or whatever, because right now, as we record this in 2019, there are government initiatives to break up Google and Facebook and Amazon because they're so flippin' big. They're giant.
Yeah. They only want to break up the monopolies that they don't have control over.
Yeah, but even like Amazon Web Services, like the cloud that we talk about, like every time I send you a poster or whatever, it's through Amazon.
They're not trying to break up Walmart.
Walmart doesn't hold a candle
to
Google. Walmart. I heard that there was some whatever expert I was listening to.
A guru.
So I don't like.
I
hate that word. Oh my god, I hate that word. There was some expert I was listening to about
yogi.
How they evaluate companies, and it was like 2001, 2002. So everything had just taken a total crap. Mm-hmm. I mean, Amazon, which as of Friday was like slightly over $1,400. Mm-hmm. Was like under $11 at the time. Like, so when 9/11 happened, everybody kind of freaked out and like sold all their stock and whatever. And, oh my God, I didn't remember what I was going to say.
Yeah, monopolies and how big Google and Amazon are. And
oh yeah, it was about the valuation. It was about the valuation. So Walmart was this huge company that was valuated at like $90 billion or something way back in like 2000 or something. Google was valuated at its potential earning income. So it was actually over what Walmart would be. Now, you know, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I think, I know it sounds like those people are right here.
I feel like somebody's about to open the door.
I know. Maybe we should just open the door. It's so dang hot outside, though.
I know.
But anyway, no. So with Walmart, yes, there's a chance that there's a good chance that there are enough lobbyists to keep people in Congress from preventing sort of the breakup of that.
Right.
Because their model works, going to small towns, pilfering it, taking out mom and pop places. I mean, it's worked for 40 years.
Well, sure. I mean, of course, they're being hurt by Amazon. In fact, they've even stated their own.
Hey, trip on this.
What?
The Walmart checkout cart is open source, and it was written in Portland.
Really? Huh,
I went to a meetup.
That's not Arkansas.
You remember? So back in the day, around 2011, 2012, Rich and I would do apps. And we had a whole series of apps we did that was a skinnable app that we could do. And so Rich would do the sort of like, he would make the color coordination based off of what it was. And then I would sort of like write the actual code that we would use for it. And I used to go to these meetups. And one of the meetups was this Walmart thing. And I was kind of, making this joke or whatever about it, kind of a thing. And it really was like, they literally pioneered the whole like checkout on your phone, safe and secure. And again, it was just, so it was just a bunch of tech dudes that got swallowed up for the right amount of bread into sort of the machine that was Walmart that just happened to be in Portland. It's not like, hey, they came to Portland, we loved it so much, we had to get these guys or whatever.
They couldn't find that tech firm in Fayetteville, Arkansas. That was the problem.
That's probably true. And Rich and I quit doing apps probably about 1 or 2 quarters before in-app purchases became available. And that is, because you talk about jumps.
Sure.
You talk about jumps.
Sure.
In-app purchases, huge endeavor. So what we would do back then, it was like you got the free version of the app, and it had like kind of a couple questions
like
or whatever,
version,
like kind of a light version, like an LITE version.
Right.
And then you could buy the whole app for like $1.99 or something.
Well, Amazon's strange to me. I love Amazon. As a consumer, why wouldn't you? It's especially not living in a major metropolitan area. It's super convenient. I can get anything I want. As a consumer, I love Amazon. Ethically, I hate it because I think between Amazon and Walmart, they have just absolutely killed bespoke mom and pop, just small store, the whole, why anybody would try to start anything that's just, unless you're super specific to the point where nobody else can get it, unless we got to have some sort of revival of people wanting to go out and buying things again. But I don't know. I don't like that aspect.
Part of it was it's sold as a method of convenience. So if you kind of know what you want already and you don't want the hassle of kind of going out and trying to find something, it may work. I mean the only exception is this. I've been working on this house with Rick, and one of the things that we've been doing is we've been finding very specific things. So my friend Rick, what he does is he is a general contractor, but he also does historic restoration. So a big part of his thing is making things look like the way that it did back in 1940, 1950, whatever. And there was a place I went to called Winks, which of course there's a whole built-in kind of joke around that.
No T in front of it.
No T yet, unless you're Tom going to Winks.
That's a club in Portland, right?
It could be.
It's near Gresham.
It's downtown.
No, it's down.
It's on Vaseline Alley for sure. Anyway, so one of the things I had to get, because it was like a block away from the office, like, oh, do you just go down there and get these like house numbers, right? So there's these very specific white and black, house numbers that you would see. But aside from that, I mean, you're right. I mean, it really has sort of taken over this kind of idea of having to go out and try to find things out, much like we talk about the whole like school clothes stuff. Like you only got school clothes back in, September when you were headed back to school.
That's the whole cheapening, the cheap labor thing and bringing in things from China. And clothes were expensive because I remember when I was a kid and I started school in 1971 in California. So that was we had the largest influx of children starting school in California history in 1971. So somebody was busy.
Other places, sure, doing stuff.
So that up until probably going even through high school, it's especially when I was younger, it's like we would go to Mervyn's and we'd buy my school clothes every year. But I swear, remembering as a kid, it was $150, $200 to buy clothes in 1971, 72.
Did you get Toughskins or Lucky Star?
No, I did not. I did not get. And the thing is, it's like it's so inverse now because we used to actually berate kids for having cheap clothes. Like if they weren't wearing Levi,
right? It's kind of like celebrated now.
Yeah,
like getting the $5 Old Navy thing is celebrated.
We had some dear family friends. I remember when I was young. We always liked to go to the thrift stores as a family, and just kind of look around. And I'd buy records as a kid. I remember I was really into just finding anything like a little tape recorder and just taking it home and messing with it. But anyway, they wouldn't go. They wouldn't buy anything from a thrift store. They wouldn't buy any used clothes because
who's this? Your extended family?
Just family friends.
Okay.
Yeah. And they had a stigma about it, that it was, there's probably something to do with, there's a class thing to do with it. And there's probably something to do with people growing up near or right slightly after the Depression. But, and, trying to, that affluence, the affluence of the 50s.
Sure. And it's looking good. And it's kind of like the whole, we used to make fun of it. We talked about the Kmart mentality. Like
exactly. That's where the Lucky Star pants came from, by the way.
Like, hey, they're cheap, because you're from.
About it.
Yeah, because you're from.
So what did the bird? What did the bird say when he walked into Kmart? Cheap. Yeah, and that was pointed at the kids that were wearing Lucky Star jeans, and the whole blue light special thing, but that doesn't exist.
So reel it back for a second.
Okay.
So what was the actual blue light special? Was there an actual blue light?
Sure, they had this. It was like a rolling counter type thing. It had a pole, and on the top of it was like a police light, like a blue police light. And they would, whatever they were going to have an in-store sale, and just kind of a pop-up sale, they would move it into that department, and they would flip on the light and say, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're having a blue light special in lingerie or whatever," and then.
You could just see the guy on the phone, like, smoking the cigarette. He's like, "Okay, Edward, at 2:00, it's going to be dog food."
Right.
So, like, all right. Hey, Muriel, come here.
It totally was.
2:00, it's going to be dog food. Alpo. Mock it down, 90 cents.
But Kmart's model is the kind of the grandfather of Walmart's model. But they didn't do the whole...
In what sense?
The kind of cut rate department store.
Okay, I can see that.
Kmart that's why we made jokes about Kmart being cheap,
Right.
Opposed to, you never said Montgomery Ward was cheap, you never said Sears was cheap or JCPenney. Those were your standard fare department stores.
JCPenney was where we got all of our school clothes. I remember going up to Valley River Center.
We go to Sears or,
Yeah, Sears was kind of a thing too. It's funny, and even by our rehearsal studio in Salem, we had a Kmart up until probably a year and a half ago?
Yeah. But they closed the Sears that was in Albany, and Sears will be gone if it isn't completely gone within a year.
They closed the Sears at Lloyd Center, and it's just my biggest complaint is kind of a Netflix thing. It's like Netflix isn't working. It's one of those because that was the best entrance to the mall,
right?
Where I could get the most parking and
so
just walk in.
Through there
so I'm like, I
can't cut through Sears.
Anymore.
Well, if you would have bought something when you cut through Sears, maybe they'd still be here.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny you say that because we bought. I was so stoked that I was one of the very few people that actually has a Comcast business landline, and I found a three-pack of phones from Sears, and we bought it, and it had been double discounted. I think it was like $19.97, down from $150 or something like that. And we were super stoked. And Jordan's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's like a phone." Well, what do you do with it? Like, you talk to people on it. He's like, "She can't play games on it." He didn't know. He didn't.
The phone's secondary. The phone is just being able to make a call on a smartphone is the complete. It is, honesty.
And now I have it for all the free robocalls I get 6 times a day, both upstairs and downstairs.
Right.
It does. You know what? Look, if I'm getting out of the shower, I guarantee you somebody's going to call with one of two things. It's either thanks for staying with us at the Hilton,
right?
Because the DoubleTree got hacked or whatever, and my
crap
has been sold.
We're calling about your Windows computer.
I do get that. I get that on my cell phone or my mobile phone or my smartphone. But the other one I get a lot is the warranty on my car is expired.
Right, yeah.
Which I'm like, okay, my 2003 Element that I still drive around with 238,000 miles on it, that's been expired.
I hate to be morose, but I'll get calls every great once. Well, at least I did. Not with this new phone number, but with our old phone number, I get calls of people, and it was pointed toward my dad. And
sure.
And then it would be like some telemarketer or something, and then I would tell them that my dad passed away. That takes the wind out of somebody's sails. I mean, at the time, I just get to the point. It's like, I don't care. I'm just going to be truthful with him. It's like my father passed away. Oh, I'm sorry. And then they would just be gone. I mean,
of course, dude. It's some chick who like makes
Right.
less than minimum wage
Right.
in like Oklahoma, who's on, doing a phone thing. I will have to say this though. There is a really good story way back before this sort of thing became present. And we'll come back to your response there. That was a really good one. But I need to go use the restroom. So I'm gonna use the restroom and I'm gonna have you tell a story. It's when
great.
it's when
But you can get me a drink while you're out
it's
there. Too.
when Doug, well, okay. It's when Doug answered the phone.
Oh yeah, this is great. I'll tell the story.
And he acted like
He was deaf.
yeah, like he was.
And
Okay, all right.
Okay.
No,
I'll
no
go
announcements.
I'll tell the story.
Tell the story.
Yeah. So Doug would answer the phone, and he would act like he was hearing impaired, and he would be as polite as he possibly could. And every time they would give him a phone number, he would give it back to him wrong. And it would just, you could tell the person on the other side was just, they don't know if they're being punked or if they didn't want to just act like, they're just some kid jerking around or something.
Who was it? Was it like debt collectors?
It was debt collectors. And he would do something simply. They were like, well, you need to call. So what's the number? He'd do that whole thing. And they were like 1-800. He's like 179. No, sir. Yeah. But anyway, it was funny. I guess you had to be there.
So, I just remember when Doug was doing this that we would just bust up. I mean, he held it together pretty good, man. I will say that. He was pretty.
It's funny because Doug would make this huge caricature of himself, and just
all the time
act like he was pretty much always act like he was impaired somehow. So
it's totally his story. It's totally his act, man.
But he would do it. I mean, nobody. I mean, with the slightest egging on, it's like the slightest nudge, and it becomes a nuclear missile. So he found this wrestler's. I guess it was like a water polo helmet or something, and it had. And he used to
right. It had to be water polo because it was this really thin material.
Yeah.
And the ears had like kind of
plastic
protection with them,
protectors,
but they were plastic, and you could like actually see through them. So water
had a
polo
number
actually
on it.
makes sense. So he would like put this cap on, and he would just act retarded.
And he did it on Sunset Boulevard.
I mean, he did
asking for spare change.
He did it many times.
but that one I just.
That one I totally remember.
Walking up to people all asking for spare change. He's got that helmet on. And Doug's a large man. So you're taken aback anyway. And then you're just thrown because you don't know if this guy's punking you, fucking with you, or if he's actually impaired. So there's this deer caught in the headlights, slightly frightened,
Bringing it back to technology, we need to find a way to give that, find out what that cognitive bias and that evolutionary thing is, where you're just really not quite sure, because a lot of that had to do with social norms.
Sure.
So let's also give some context to the listeners as well. So he would do this goofy thing. It was super embarrassing. You just kind of would hide your head and be all like, dude, really? You're going to do this thing now? Whatever. And he would do it to the hottest chick in the room. Because I think what he was doing... Okay, so armchair psychologist with me is... He's so afraid of actual human interaction that he would do anything that he could. So he chose the most attractive woman in the room to make these... do these things with...
Right.
And I just chuckle because it's so funny. It was just so. I mean, and he had more balls than I did. I didn't really care. I was either married or, like that wasn't important to me at the time.
It was his icebreaker.
It was his icebreaker.
Maybe there's something behind the fact that
Can we bring back the ability of not knowing for sure? Because that's what they talk about, like with fake news on Facebook and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I totally do. Well, it used to be that part of society's unwritten code was to take care of those that can't take care of themselves. So you help the weakest. Nobody If you had a room and there was a guy making fun of a mentally impaired person there, the tribe would come to aid of that person.
No,
because
totally.
that's the person that needs the tribe's help. And there was an unwritten code. Nobody had to say anything to anybody. Everybody would have been on it. Right. I mean, probably on that more than they would on other things they probably should. But yeah, I think that's still there. I don't think it's just gone away. It's just that we're fractured right now. I don't think. I mean, a good bad example, even meaning that something bad had to happen to bring it all back together, was 9/11.
Yeah,
the country was divided at the time, and that happened. Boom, like Velcro. Everything stuck together, and then, of course, we were all played. But what you saw could happen again.
But the results of that communication happened anyway.
Right.
So that racism about Muslim people or people from the Middle East or whatever, like that still was the outcome of that communication that occurred. Like I remember Eben Pagan, who's his family descended from sort of southern Italy, right? So he's like kind of a little bit more dark skinned. Even he was kind of like, holy cow, like I shouldn't be like walking around.
Right.
It was kind of a thing. So you're right. So the social norms have changed. And I think a lot of that might be having, constant communication, constantly being bombarded in your pocket, constantly being part of this. It's just this cycle, and that honestly is what I've been struggling with a lot with Henry's Child, where it's like, yes, there's a certain degree of folks that follow us on Facebook where if we release something, they'll either listen to it or they'll read it or they'll click or they'll have some sort of engagement with it.
Right.
We have more podcast subscribers than we have likes on Facebook.
Right.
But I can't prove to you that those are 100% real people. Mm-hmm. They could be bots. They could be side things like Podbean trying to up their ante with it, or Libsyn or something like that. I mean, again, so not to come full circle, but really the three games in town when it comes to this are Spotify, Google Play, and Apple iTunes. And so I fought tooth and nail. We can't. Okay, so we really should, if we do end up getting this far, we should let everybody know that there's been these noises, these strange noises that are happening outside.
Noises behind us.
So it's like it's 5:20 right now in the afternoon, and we wrote Scott about an hour and a half ago, and he said he would be here by now. So
we're anticipating.
We are drinking and actually testing the podcast mics, and it's only been 56 minutes.
That's it.
So
I can talk longer than that.
So we can, but the full circle of having that authenticity with people and that real sort of like, even for this. Okay, so we're at Sound Lounge, we're actually in Grants Pass. I think we've mentioned that probably 3 times, but this is the first of all of our CD release shows that I'm not actually putting like a bunch of advertising on a credit card with. And it's really for a few reasons. Number one, don't do that on the microphone. Number one, Travis is from here. Mm-hmm. And a lot of folks have said that they're going to come out and see Travis. And number two is this is a very small club we're playing. And this was a really hard show to get. This took a long time to get, and I promised them Jollymon, and I couldn't come through with Jollymon, so I had to come up with 2 other bands. But the funny thing is, and here's the other thing, Rich. This is great because it actually makes sense to what we were talking about earlier, which is the relationship of other people. That's got to be Scott.
Password.
Rich.
What's up, buddy?
How you doing, brother?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you, man.
Thom.
Hi. I'm Rich. Nice to meet you.
What's up, man?
How you doing?
How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Hi, what's your name?
Rebecca.
Rebecca, I'm Thom.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Long time.
I know, huh?
That's crazy.
How are you?
Good.
Man, I'm so looking forward to tonight.
Yeah.
I've been talking you guys up quite a bit, so.
Nice.
You know, Trav Ziering, who played in way back then. Do you remember Bethany Sin?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, well, he's from here.
Okay.
And he's playing with us now.
All right.
Yeah.
So 2 guitar players?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that in the photo.
Yep.
I'm not sure where that, probably Wow Hall.
Yeah, well, actually,
What you saw was hi-fi,
Yeah, sessions
which has
now,
changed to sessions.
Okay.
So when you play Eugene, you need to play there.
All right. Well,
sure.
the light setup there looked really cool. And
Oh, it's
then
dope.
I noticed two
It's
guitar players.
Yeah.
And-